value from success, growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Stewart Muir, Executive Director of the ResourceWorks Society. His website, resourceworks.com. You can find him on Twitter at SJMuir. Welcome back to the show, Stewart.
Thank you, Jim.
Stewart, for new listeners who may not be really aware of what the ResourceWorks Society does, can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, I'm executive director of this group, the ResourceWorks Society. As the name implies, we're a not-for-profit. We're based in Vancouver. We've been around since about 2014. And what we do is we're seeking to build a more informed, and we hope, because sometimes things can get heated around natural resource issues, mining, pipelines, forestry, aquaculture. We're hoping to build a more informed discussion that's also respectful and reaches people who have real questions. And, I think part of the thing here is that you've got proponents of projects, they want to build it, so a company, they're getting the money, the plans together, they want to do something. Maybe they're a public company, they've got all these different bosses. So that's what they focus on, which is a rational thing for a company to do. But sometimes what we miss is more the public interest story. And we typically hear only from those who are concerned with the public interest of environmental safety and protection, which is a very good, important part of public interest, but it's not the only thing, because our economy in BC and Canada really is based on resources. I'm not saying everyone's a lumberjack in BC. Obviously they're not, but everyone benefits from the work that starts in the woods, in the mountains, in the gas fields. Everyone benefits. There's not a single person who doesn't benefit in significant ways because of all the taxes and royalties and the business. So, it's really important stuff. It's not trivial. It's not something that we should think about and not do anything about. We need to do something about this. So that's what we're doing. We do reports and studies. Lately we have had a task force for real jobs, real recovery in the pandemic. And as a result of our work, which was led by volunteer experts from across Canada, coast to coast to coast, we brought forward some findings. And we've lately been very busy bringing our knowledge and recommendations to MPs and federal civil servants who are looking for answers. I mean, we've had some great conversations. People really do see the authenticity of our work. We're community-based. We have volunteers. We have individuals. This is not one of those, oh, look, there's big industry. We are really the salt of the earth in this country. And we have labor unions that we work with and First Nations. And, we want to change the tone because it can be so divisive and it's a big turn off. When you see these sort of big, shouty arguments, no one likes that.
Well, I was going to say name calling never benefits anyone if you think that's what it takes to convince people. I don't listen to people who call me names. I don't know anybody else who would. Also, with First Nations, there seems to be this misconception that they're against natural resource development of any kind.
There is such a misconception. And, I don't even know how that got started, because the First Nations that I constantly come into contact with are saying pretty much variations of the same thing, which is that, if they're in rural parts of the country, as so many of them are, they're asking, where can we get some jobs? Where can we get the revenues to pay for the services that our elders want? We want our language to be passed down to the next generation, but we can't afford a school or teachers. We need some money for that. And guess what? You get money from business activity. And so the new era that's really upon us now of economic reconciliation, because there's a lot of stuff in Canada's past that just isn't right and it needs to be addressed, and we all should be taking a part in it, is finding ways to work with businesses that are saying, we want to invest in your community, would like you to be partners if you're a First Nation, and you'll get the benefits. And that's what's really happening. So it's kind of a quiet phenomenon because, frankly, these people are so busy doing business and building things and helping their communities that they're not out there looking for publicity. But it's happening, and it's big. It's a big shift in Canadian business.
We'll have more with Stewart Muir right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with Stewart Muir. Stewart, with the Keystone XL Pipeline being canceled, at least for now, because we know it's going to end up in court. What does that really mean?
What it means is that the ongoing challenge to make sure we get the highest benefit and value for an important Canadian resource remains unfinished. Because right now, Canadians, like it or not, are subsidizing Americans to drive in their larger cars, to live in their sprawling suburban cities, to consume way more resources than anyone in the world, to have cheaper gasoline by far than Canadians with no carbon tax. You know, they're coasting on the hard work of Canadians because we are forced to give them our oil at a discount. We are therefore a kind of economic colony, at least in oil terms, of the U.S. I know not a lot of people are saying that, but you think about the fact set, it's actually true. We are prevented by this decision by an American president. And I like Joe Biden. I don't have an issue with Joe Biden. But I think this is a decision that perpetuates the economic colonial status of Canada vis-a-vis the USA. And so it's not a desirable one, and nor is it economically desirable for either country. This is costing a lot of jobs in the U.S. It is also environmentally a short-sighted decision, because I know it's cast in terms of, oh, this is for climate. Well, it's not for climate when you consider that it's Canadian oil that's lowering its greenhouse gas footprint in its production, not American oil. Americans are reckless emitters of methane. Now, I know Biden says he's going to change that, and when he does, I'll give him some points. But for right now, Americans don't care about the methane emissions that their oil industry spews. The Canadian industry does. It has been a world leader in lowering its methane emissions. It doesn't seem to get any credit for that, unfortunately. And so for those who are saying you shouldn't have that pipeline for environmental reasons, you should also be asking, why would you give away this premium resource at a discount so it can be used so recklessly by such a profligate nation of consumers who have so much when the rest of the world has so little? You know, they don't want this oil to reach people in India who would like to have it to allow energy poverty to be reduced. I mean, that's the ultimate selfishness of an advanced country, and I find it repellent. And I think Canadians need to stand up, because getting oil to where it's needed safely, improving oil, I mean, none of the oil in the world is perfect, but what is? I mean, we need to keep investing in the improvement. So I think the challenge is with Trans Mountain to make sure that gets finished. And then whether it's by rail or other means, we continue to develop our ports so that the world's demand, rather than get oil from, you know, places like Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, countries that don't respect people or the environment, you know, we can be the ones who provide the cleaner product. And that's a correct and proper goal that we can be proud of.
Well, Asia would like to buy our oil and gas, and they'll pay the world price for it, not some discounted rate because it comes from Canada.
That's correct. Yep.
how soon before the Trans Mountain Pipeline starts sending tankers out to Asia?
Well, if it attains its scheduled completion date, which is December 2022, that's next year. That's how close it is. That's when it will commence. And the oil is going to go to the west coast of the U.S. It's going to go anywhere that a ship can float to, and that's anywhere in the world. And I know there's critics saying, no, this is all for this or that. I see a lot of uninformed speculation about that. I mean, the fact is, when you have a commodity that reaches tide water, the market does respond. Right now, there are those who say, well, the proof that it won't go to Asia is that it's not going to Asia now. It's like, well, it's not going to Asia now because the pipeline is so backed up, people can't get their oil into it who want to send it to Asia. So even if people wanted to, I mean, yes, there's been some shipments, there have been, which proves that it can be done and done safely. But the problem is we don't have the new pipeline to add the capacity. That's the tipping point. That's when we will see the world market recognize Canadian oil in a more sustained, measurable way. So that's coming. It's around the corner, really.
Do you find it ironic in Seattle they're holding protests? They want pipelines to carry oil there instead of tanker cars. Here in Canada, people are protesting pipelines, but they don't realize tanker cars are less efficient and more dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I think rail is a great option. It's an option that we're going to be using, and the rail industry has done a lot. They've invested in a whole new standard of oil tanker cars for rail, which came after the Lake Magnetic tragedy, and so I think there's certainly a story there that is something we'll be possibly hearing more about. I mean, if we don't have KXL, we're going to have more rail. So I think there's a good story for Canada in there. But you do want to have diversified options. I mean, the farmers get cranky if their wheat is not moving at the pace to the West Coast to get to their customers that they want. I mean, there are some of these substances like if they're agricultural or food oriented, you can't just leave it sitting in a rail car side of the railroad forever. It's got to be briskly delivered to its buyers. So that's a consideration, and we only have so much rail capacity. They're doing some great things to improve, heavy rail so that you can run more trains on it and bigger trains and all that.
But again, Stewart, that's something that the natural, Resource Works does is explain to people, look, do you want to hurt Canadian farmers? And they'll all say, no, we don't. Well, you realize by forcing them to ship oil by tanker car, there isn't capacity on the railways to get Canadian wheat and other agricultural products out to the world.
Yeah, I mean, how suitable is it that a country in 2021 should be reliant on infrastructure from the 1950s and 1880s? The rest of the world is modernizing, upgrading, and we seem paralyzed to be the source of solutions for our own benefit, for the benefit of Canadians. And this political gridlock is debilitating, and ultimately, it has consequences. The loss of jobs does have consequences, and we'll see that. Right now, we're living on the benefit of a fine printing press at the Bank of Canada, but that workhorse can't be used forever. We can't just print money out of this pandemic. We've got to have the engines of production that allow us to be the trading economy, which is the thing that allows us to be the highest standard of living in the world. If we are feeling we're not so worried about our status of living, our standard of living, we're okay with maybe we need to be more at Argentina or Greece in our aspirations. Let's shut down large parts of the economy because some people think that we don't know how to protect the environment. That should be a political decision, I expect, that people can make. But I think the hard work right now is figuring out the solutions to some really tricky problems. Like, we do need to lower emissions, and we do need to adopt technologies that will allow that. And how do we, balance this out? That's what everyone's thinking about in industry. There may be a sense that it's not happening fast enough, and I think that might be true. So how can we speed it up? That's the big question. Because if we just shut it down, it'll be done by somewhere else, and inevitably it will be done worse with no benefit for us. So, why would we do that?
I hope Alanis Morissette's listening. Isn't this ironic? Denmark is subsidizing electric cars for everybody because of the billions they've made from selling oil and gas.
Well, that's right. You look at how other countries approach their transportation policy. You need to have something that creates that wealth in the economy. They love to talk about the green future. There's a lot of talk there. I think if you're hearing this stuff, I don't think we should say, no, we don't want that. I think we should say, okay, let's examine what we're really hearing. Is it true that the laws of physics are so easy to switch? We can suddenly change, our reliance on how, heat is produced and how electricity is generated, or is it a little harder than that? There's so much hype on things. And, actually one thing I loved this past few days is when Elon Musk, who's, his work and his mind is just a remarkable, thing of this generation. He said, I have $100 million for the person or organization, I guess, who develops carbon capture beyond where it is now. $100 million prize for carbon capture. Carbon capture is where, in order to get greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide out of the air, you either stop it from getting there by capturing it, or once it's in the air, you capture it from there. There's different technologies, and it is a major part of the solution. Unfortunately, I think there's a certain mindset that says, no, we don't want that. We'd rather have our preferred solution. You know what? We need all hands on deck right now, and I think whenever we see people saying, "Oh, we don't want that," I think wind energy is great. You need to make sure it's being used, and you create dependencies on it that are appropriate to the technology and the fact that the wind doesn't always blow. I mean, right now the UK, which is very proud of its offshore wind farms, they have a massive number of wind farms. If you fly into Heathrow or Gatwick and look out the window coming over Scotland, you'll see, holy smokes, look at that. All those wind turbines off the coast. It's incredible. But right now, or at least in the last few days, no wind, zero. That happens in winter in Britain. So guess what? They're firing up their natural gas.
Here in BC, we should be using tidal power because of Vancouver Island. The tides are different all along the coast. You'd have continuous generation. Yep. They built a barge with tidal power turbines on it to power a fishing lodge, but it makes enough power for 3,000 homes. It doesn't cost anything to run it, and tides run every day, no matter what. As long as we've got the moon up there, we're going to have tides.
Well, exactly. And, I also love geothermal. There's a First Nation, Fort Nelson First Nation, that's investing in a project in the Northeast. They've got the legacy of natural gas production up there. So they have the technology. They have holes that have been drilled, and there's hot water down there that can be harnessed, and they're working on a project. It is, part of that. It's a smorgasbord. If we're talking about the Scandinavians and their approach to energy, it's a smorgasbord of options. Canada literally has the most energy options of any country in the world because we have uranium. We produce a ton of uranium for fuel. We have oil. We have gas. We have wind. We have the potential for tidal. We have hydro. Of course, how could I miss hydro? We have all this stuff going on. What other country? I don't know. Maybe Russia's got all of that, but no other countries have got the breadth of technology and basic resources. So how do we marry those two things and turn that into our future?
We'll have more with Stewart Muir right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Stewart Muir. Stewart, the BC Natural Resources Forum is taking place right now, but it's not in Prince George. Where is it? And what's going on there?
Exactly. The final week of January is traditionally when the BC Natural Resources Forum occurs. This year, surprisingly, it's a virtual event, so it's happening I guess, in the cloud. But usually it's a big thing in Prince George. Over 1,000 people travel there. It's become, in recent years, even more high profile. You have federal government ministers come. You have the whole slate of what back in the day at the Vancouver Sun we used to call the dirt ministers, but the provincial ministers who are responsible for natural resources things. So the Minister of Forests, Minister of State for Lands and Natural Resources, Minister of Environment, and Minister of Jobs, Minister of Energy, Minister of Indigenous Relations, all up there, having a chance to talk directly to industry about how they're approaching the issues and problems and all the challenges they've got. And that was a round table that was held this week. We've also seen companies that are talking about what they're doing to transform the energy future. We saw Fortis BC host a very interesting discussion on that. Women in the resource sector, that's a big talker because, guess what? Some of the best paying jobs, many of the best paying jobs in BC are in the resource industry. Those professions and technical fields, they pay really well. And, women, have traditionally, of course, don't need to even start. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. The challenges. How do they break through the glass ceiling, get into better paying? So this was a really interesting discussion that was had. They're looking at forestry, bringing together some likely and unlikely suspects to the stage to talk about some of the challenges in that field. So it's still going on. There's another day, and it is something. I go to that usually in the past. I've gone to Prince George for it over many years. It leaves people with something to talk about for the whole year ahead. Really sets the agenda. So interesting times in BC. I mean, you look at critical minerals. Mining is going to be just shaking things up because we need. I mean, yeah, we all want to talk about electric cars, but if you're talking about an electric car, you're talking about 300 pounds of copper for that electric car, plus a bunch of other metals. So where to get those metals in a world where we have finite capacity? We have to find those deposits. We have to develop the mines, and then we have to get that metal to market. And so, there's a long list, as long as your arm, of different metals, often very, exotic metals that aren't, you wouldn't think are every day, but they're probably in your phone. You probably got all of them. I've heard between 30 and 60 different mineral elements in your phone. Not your phone, Jim. I mean anyone's phone. Swiping your finger across the screen, that doesn't happen through magic. It needs certain rare earth minerals that allow this phenomenon to occur, and it has to be mined and produced. And Canada is in a wonderful position to do that. But we have to make sure we're developing the technologies that let us do it in a way that the public's satisfied with, that it does protect the environment.
Yeah, right now the world looks to China for rare earths, but Canada has the most rare earths on the planet. And finally, we're seeing development in Quebec and Saskatoon for rare earths. So that's another area, for the future. And it's true, you can't run a smartphone without it. That'll get the attention of the millennials.
Exactly. Yes. And all that other stuff, motors and batteries, batteries require lithium, and we've got, all sorts of new ideas about what the future of batteries holds. And whatever the idea is, it for sure includes metals.
Stewart, we always have new things to talk about. I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
I always enjoy this time in the week.
My guest has been Stewart Muir, Executive Director of the Resource Works Society. If you have any questions for Stewart, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. Stewart's website, resourceworks.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.